What up, and welcome to my Kona Rescue Beastie Super Budget Commander deck. What I called it is Budget Bing Things. This should be Big Things. I don't care though. Either way, the deck revolves around using Kona, their survival effect. Second main, if it's tapped, put a permanent from your hand onto the battlefield. This is just mono green. Going off the estimated deck cost, now this is from TCG players, so obviously little asterisks because TCG player prices are correct, but it can be a pain with shipping. Either way, $15. If you said it's a Card Kingdom, it's $50, but also it's not optimized for Card Kingdom pricing. Either way, I want to make something that was super budget and is relatively easy to play, just for anybody that's new, or I don't know, if you just want to pick up like a fun deck and not have any commitment to it. But yeah, so Kona, you're gonna tap it. Second main, you're gonna tax evasion. So we got some categories. We got line to the IRS. This is just everything that'll help you tap down your Kona. Tax evasion, the results of Kona being tapped. Elves help pay taxes because what if they deal with your Kona? Best way to ramp in green, just play elves, and elves are really cheap. Ramp, just other ramp cards, and then other stuff, which is stuff that I saw that was cheap that is good in the deck. So going through line to the IRS, Beastie, this card's not even that bad. When it attacks, another target legendary creature can't be blocked this turn. Could be useful. Has crew too. Flywheel Racer can add a color only if it's a creature, which is fine because you just crew it and then you also ramp a little bit. High speed hover bike, and it enters, tap up to one target creature. I wanted to get a lot of artifacts or anything that would like saddle your crew that had a decent effect when it gets played. Mechaton Core, this one's just crew too. I'm not reading all that. Mobile Homestead, this one, if one of it attacks, load the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it on the battlefield tap, so it's a little ramp. Sky Skiff is just a flying crew one, so you can get a swing off with it if you want to. TARDIS, kind of similar, it's just there for flying and it's a decent body. Brotherhood Vertibird, again, flying. Its power is equal to the number of artifacts, which if you play out a bunch of the vehicles early, could be good. Careening Minecart, this one creates a treasure when it attacks, which is nice, more ramp. Cultivator's Caravan, this is probably just the best vehicle in the game. 3 mana, 5/5, and it's a mana dork. I guess not really mana dork because it's an artifact. Mana rock, sure. Drover Grizzly, this is just a saddle, so essentially the same thing as crew. Except when it attacks, you can control creatures you control gain trample. So this will help later on in the game if you have a big board or you're trying to swing over blockers. Getaway Car has haste, which is nice, and when it attacks or blocks, return up to one target creature that crewed it to its owner's hand. Don't really ever use it for that, but it's a 4/3 with haste and crew one. Mighty Servant of Luco, I think I said that right. It's a 3 mana 6/6, which is pretty crazy. Ward discarded card, so people aren't going to want to get rid of it. And whenever it becomes crewed for the first time each turn, if it was crewed by exactly 2 creatures, which most likely isn't going to happen unless you just decide to crew it with an elf, because why not? It gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw 2 cards until end of turn, which is pretty useful. And crew 4 obviously, so it's the perfect number for Kona. Night Scythe, mainly just used for flying, but when it enters it makes a 2/2 Black Necron Warrior, which is nice for blockers. The Necron can also crew it if you want to. I think that's how the card was intended to be used, but whatever. Raider's Carve, when it attacks with the top card of your library, if it's a land, put on the battlefield tapped. Good card. And then second thing, tax evasion. Before that, I'm also going to say everything here is essentially 3 mana or less, because the ideal curve of the deck is turn 1, play forest, maybe play elf. If not, turn 2, forest, and like try and ramp. You essentially always want a vehicle or something to tap your Kona before you play the Kona. But yeah, okay, on to tax evasion. What this is called, because you're essentially just not paying taxes, you're not paying the cost of the card. You got Greater Tanuki. It is a 6/5 with trample. That's really it. You can channel it to search for a basic land. That's cool. It's a 6/5 with trample. That's going to be the theme for a lot of cards in this deck. Primordial Sage 6 mana 4/5. When you cast a creature spell, draw a card, which is useful because you're gonna run out of cards very quickly with your low curve, and then you're shooting at the occasional big thing. Rampaging Baloths, Trample, Landfall, make a 4/4. It's nice. Thunderfoot, Baloth, Trample. A lot of things have Trample because if people set up dorks early, you want to still be able to get damage in. As long as you control your commander, it gets +2/+2, and other creatures get +2/+2 and have Trample, which you usually want to have your commander in the deck. So it's a pretty good card, especially it'll buff all your elves you play. Altanak the Thrice Called, 7 mana 9/9 is one of the bigger ones. When it becomes a target of spell or an ability an opponent controls, draw a card. So essentially, I guess not ward, but ward. You can also discard it to return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Probably not gonna do. Annoyed Altasaur, 7 mana 6/5 with Trample Cascade. Now, unfortunately, you don't cast it with Kona's effect, but if you just cast it from hand, it could get you something good, or most likely an elf. Beanstalk Giant ramps and is big. It's a good card. Giant Adaphage, Trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of it, so it can get pretty out of hand if you play it quickly. And Meteor Golem is a Meteor Golem. I don't know. It's cheap, it destroys a non-land permanent, and you can shoot it out early if you want to. Palaka Worm, Trample 7/7. When it enters, gain 7 life. When it dies, draw a card. It does everything you want, and it gives you life. Bookworm, when it enters, you gain 3 life and draw a card, which is nice. You can also put it from your graveyard into your library, third from the top, so you can keep playing if you really want to. Endray's Forerunners, 8 mana 7/7, but it's got keyword soup, it's got vigilance, it's got trample, it's got haste. And when it enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain vigilance and trample until the end of turn, which is really useful later on trying to go for game. Terrastodon, it's a 8 mana 9/9, I can count. When it enters, destroy up to 3 non-creature permanents for each permanent. But into the graveyard, its control makes a 3/3 green elephant creature token. You could theoretically use this on yourself if you want to like get rid of lands for 3/3 elephants, and also just hit whatever. We're playing Eldrazi's because Eldrazi's are big, right? 8 mana 8/8, Annihilator 2. It attacks each combat Fable. You most likely want to attack each combat anyways. Titannoth Rex is a 9 mana 11/11 with trample. When you cycle it, you don't cycle it. You can put a trample on another target creature. Ancient Stone Idol, it's essentially like 10, but yeah, 10 mana total. Trample, when it dies, you make a 6/12 construct with trample. So it's really, really big and sick. Galta costs exile, cast, or explode power creatures, and it's just Galta. It's a 12 mana trample. Onto elves help pay taxes, because that's what they're there for. Maybe your Kona is constantly dying. Maybe you're not seeing your crew cards. The elves are there to ramp you into your tax evasion cards without committing tax evasion. Also, elves just pretty cheap and really, really good at ramping. Arbor Elf untaps a forest, your entire deck is forest. It's a pseudo ramp. You can tap an untapped artifact or creature to add a mana of any color. So you could hit one of your crew things if you really wanted to. Elvish Mystic is Elvish Mystic. Jaspera Sentinel is Jaspera Sentinel. Tap an untapped creature, so slightly worse, but still fine. Because if you play that turn 1, you play an elf on turn 2, you can still tap the elf on turn 2 for a mana, similar to if it just had haste. Llanowar is Llanowar. Awesome reprint foundations, I'm a big fan. Drew the Cowl is Llanowar, but it's 2 mana 1/3. Elfhame Druid. Adds a green or adds 2 for kick spells, so it adds a green. Heart Warden adds 1 green mana to your mana pool, or you can sacrifice it to draw a card, which is pretty useful. Leaf Glider adds a green. Leafkin Druid adds a green, or if you control 4 or more creatures, it adds 2, which is possible because you're playing elves. Loam Speaker adds a mana, or you can make a land a 3/3 elemental with haste. Cool. Overgrown Zealot adds a mana, or adds 2 mana to turn a permanent face up, which I guess you can manifest around this deck, so it could happen. Paradise Druid adds a mana and is hexproof. Priest of Titania adds that for each elf, so this is one of the bigger ones. Kyrion Elves enters, you choose green. You can tap it for green, or you can tap it for the color that you choose. So green. Wirewood Elves adds green. Woodland Mystic adds green. And that's it. On to ramp. Because what's more... I mean, yeah, you need more ramp. 17 elves, not enough. Wild Growth enchants a land to have it tap for an additional green. Explorers draw a card and you can play 2 lands, so pseudo ramp. Host Cartographer, one of the few other survival cards. If it's tapped, search your library for a land card, put that card into your hand, the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. So if you're mana screwed or if you just want more lands. Rampant Growth is ramp. Burnished Heart is kind of ramp. It's expensive ramp, but it's still ramp. Elvish Archdruid. I don't know why this isn't ramp. There should be an elves. I messed up. Other elves get +1/+1. Add a green for each elf. Harrow. You can sacrifice a land to search for 2 lands. So it's a +1 land. Explosive Vegetation. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them on the battlefield tapped. Migration Path. Same thing. Moldering Gym. Quick rotate. Moldering Gym is ramp. The other side you can just use later on if you have spare mana to put it to manifest dread, put 3/1 counters on that creature. And then on to the other stuff. These are cards that are just in the deck because they're good cards and they're useful. Ram Through is removal and could be a finisher, honestly. It does because the creature deals excess damage as if it had trample. Return to Nature is just really cheap removal. Garruk's Uprising is when a big creature enters, you draw a card. You're trying to cheat in big creatures every turn. And Reclamation Stage is destroy an artifact or enchantment. Full steam ahead. I literally just had this lying on my desk because I was looking through cards. And I'm like, oh, everything gets +2/+2 in trample. And can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. That's useful if you have like 10 elves on board. And then obviously 35 forests because you're monocolor and you don't really need special forests or special lands. On the maybe board, these are cards that I originally put in and was like, ooh, $1.19. Take that out. There's so many easy ways to upgrade this deck. Armored Scrap Gorger. I think this is actually like an insane mana dork. So it gets +3/+0 as long as it has 3 more oil counters on it. So it could be a 2 mana 3/3 eventually. You add 1 mana of any color, and whenever it becomes tapped, exile a card from a graveyard and put an oil counter. So this is not only graveyard hate, but it's also a 2 mana 0/3 mana dork, which means it has a decent body, and it taps for any color, not just green. I think this card is actually like really, really good. I don't understand why it's so cheap. Maybe because it's an uncommon from Phyrexia All will be one. Disorienting Choice. For each opponent, choose the 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. For each permanent chosen this way, its controller may exile it. If they don't, you get a basic land. Actually, you get any land. This is a very good card. Unfortunately, it was 61 cents, and I'm like, I could just run another elf. Brawlios of Fairies Band. Power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control, and whenever it attacks, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield. So it ramps you and it draws, which is nice. Breaker of Armies, 8 mana, 10/8, everything has to block it. I'm not a massive fan of this card because it's very easy for it to die. Arson Kozilek, when it enters, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. I mean, I think it's a really good card, but also it's a little more situational than just playing a big thing with trample. Obviously, if you want to play this instead, or if your group runs a lot of removal and all your big things are constantly dying, it's a good card. Phyrexian Triniform. It is a 9 mana 9/9. When it dies, you make 3/3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golems. It also has Encore, so you can play it from the trash, I believe. I don't want to read what Encore does, I'll be honest. Metalwork Colossus, 11 mana 10/10. Also, none of these have trample, which is one of the reasons why I didn't put them in. This one costs X Celestic House or X total mana of non-creature artifacts you control. So you can actually just like play this out easily, either way. And you can sacrifice 2 artifacts to return it from your graveyard to your hand, which could be useful. Worldspire Worm is a 11 mana 15/15 with trample. This one is literally only not in the deck because it's $1 and I wanted to keep it under 15 on TCG Player. When it dies, you make 3/5/5 worms with trample and it shuffles into the library. So yeah, I mean like if you go to Rex, you're gonna just see like really good cards. Apothecary Stomper. It's a vigilant when it enters. You can put 2/1/1s on a creature, gain 4. Okay, that's not a good card. You can play Soul Ring if you really wanted to. It's $1.50 though, so it doesn't really fit the budget. Enduring Vitality. Yeah, dude, sure. Like Findhorn Elves, if you have them, target creature gains Death Touch and Indestructible. That's actually a pretty good card. I wouldn't. That might go in the deck. It's essentially counter magic in green. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good cards. The new Galta, then you just play big green, Kogla, Fanatic Aronas. I don't know. Oh, this adds 4 if you have a big creature. Rishkar's Expertise, a good card. You just play the big dude from Foundations. Doesn't have Trample, which kind of sucks, but Kodama, yeah. There's so many good cards. I mean, if you don't care about the budget, just play Kona, play a bunch of crew, and then play just like the best big green cards in the game. You could probably completely ignore the elf part and just fully commit to tax evasion. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. I didn't upload last week because I forgot about it, I'll be honest. And then, I think this kind of fits. Let's say you want to give a gift, a commander deck to somebody to force them to play commander with you. Yeah, it's cheap as hell to do. And it's really easy to pilot. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll be back maybe next week. I think it's like the 23rd when I'll be. Next week's Christmas week, so if not, happy holidays, happy New Year. See you later. Bye bye.